Welcome to this mini lecture, which is about the virtual coaching and how to design an intervention that provides highly tailored and real-time feedback and content. My name is Anouk Middelweerd and I work as a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Twente. In this lecture, I will show you the most important steps which should be considered when designing a coaching intervention. So let's start with a small recap from the previous mini lecture about e-health. Monique showed you some examples of virtual coaches and introduced you to the aspects of coaching. This mini lecture will build on that. The aim of Resample's virtual companion is to provide highly tailored and real-time feedback and coaching content. To do so, based on the patient's profile, we select the domain and the patient's goals. We also select the most promising coaching approach and content. And at the end, the patient gets a highly tailored and real-time feedback. But how do we do that? Which steps are important? What will be the main focus of this? That will be the main focus of this mini lecture. The first step should always be an assessment to identify the health problem, the target group, and to create a logical model of the problem. In the next step, the main objectives and the sub-objectives of the intervention should be specified. For example, physical inactivity is related to the most prominent chronic diseases. If we want to reduce the prevalence of these diseases, for example, could design a coaching intervention to increase the levels of physical activity. But if we now want which behavior we want to if we now know which behavior we want to address, how should we proceed? Behavior change theories can help you with that. Behavior change theories aim to explain the health behaviors and guide health behavior change. Behavior is influenced by many factors, determinants. And the determinants are a variety of factors that individually influence and affect the performance of health behaviors. We know from the literature that interventions that are based on behavior change theory are more effective compared to those who aren't. Here you can see an example of some behavior change theories, but there are many more. And all these theories have different purposes. We chose the HAPA model, the Health Action Process Approach. We chose it because it states that the behavior isn't static or linear, and it's often used to design behavior change interventions. We also chose it because it includes important determinants such as self-efficacy, social support, and risk perception. And we know from the literature as well that self-efficacy is the most important determinant to address behavior change. As you can see here, there are different phases in the behavior change process. We have those at the beginning who haven't the intention yet to change their behavior. Usually that's because they have an idea that they can't do it, or they have unrealistic outcome expectations or a high risk perception. If we can change that, then they may have the intention to change their behavior. Then they have to start making action plans, and that are those who are in the intention phase. But if they then can translate their plans into a real new behavior, then they are in the action phase. Now we have selected a theory that forms the basis of our intervention. Which components should be included to influence the behavioral determinants included in the HAPA model? For that we have the behavior change techniques. Here on the slide you can see a long definition, but to be short, behavior change techniques are the smallest components of behavior change interventions that on their own, in favorable circumstances, can bring about change. Behavior change techniques are used to specify intervention content in such a way that it can be used to evaluate and compare interventions. That's necessary because we are interested in intervention components that are most effective to address behavior change. All the behavior change techniques are clustered in a behavior change taxonomy that has been designed by Susan Mickey and her group. The taxonomy is a cross-domain hierarchically ordered taxonomy of 93 distinct behavior change techniques. They are all labeled and they have definitions and examples. So this taxonomy is often used to develop and to analyze behavior change interventions. But what's the difference between behavior change theory and behavior change techniques? To begin with, behavior change theory aims to explain behavior or behavior change. It contains behavior determinants, and there are many theories with different goals. The behavior change techniques are designed to address behavior change. They contain active components for behavior change interventions. For example, the taxonomy existed of 93 behavior change techniques. But how can we link behavior change techniques to the behavioral framework? For example, you can use the literature. There are some systematic reviews and meta-analysis available who try to identify the most effective techniques. But recently there has also been a theory and technique tools available, developed by the group of Susan Mickey. And that tool is an online tool where you can see which behavior change techniques are linked to the behavioral determinants. They color-code each behavior change technique according to whether it's effective, if there is inconclusive evidence, or if there is no evidence at all. For example, here you have the HAPA model, and now we can start linking the behavior change techniques to each determinant. Here you see an example for outcome expectations, which has 4 behavior change techniques that are linked to that are associated with outcome expectations. We can do the same for risk perceptions, and we can continue that for all the other determinants in the behavioral model. What we did is for the eManager project, we did that for the HAPA model and linking all the behavior change techniques. And here you see a snapshot of the table that we created, summarizing all behavior change techniques that are linked or used for each behavioral determinant. You have your computer-tailored coaching system that looks like this. You have the objectives, the behavioral determinant and behavior change techniques, but you also have to know what you want to measure and how you want to measure it. For example, if you want to intervene on physical activity, you should know the patient's activity levels, so the patient could use a Garmin. But if you want to know the patient's outcome expectations, you should use a questionnaire. And if you want to know the patient's current state of emotions, then you should use an ecological momentary assessment. And all that information, all that data then goes into a library where also the decision rules and algorithms are hosted, and based on all that data they can identify the most promising intervention option for that for the patient. And then you have your highly tailored coaching system that can provide real-time feedback. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to contact me.